with that. I'm the founder of an internet project called the Terramar Project. It's an ocean-based digital platform which I'm going to be talking to you about.
In 2012, Ghislaine Maxwell created the Terramar Project, a project that proposed something unusual. It would allow people to become citizens of the ocean, and this would allow the ocean to be its own country. The idea was simple but strange. Nearly half of the planet, which is covered in water, exists outside the control of any nation. And this project invited people to identify with that space, as if it belonged to everyone. At first, the idea of becoming a citizen of the ocean may seem symbolic, but it raises a deeper question. Because citizenship is never just an idea. Citizenship implies law, taxes, and someone to govern the citizens of the new laws created. So, if people were to truly become citizens of the ocean, what laws would they live under? Who would create those laws? And who would enforce them in a space that belongs to no single nation? Throughout history, the most powerful civilizations all had one thing in common. They controlled the seas, from ancient maritime traders to the empires of Europe, to modern global powers. Control of the oceans meant control of trade, resources, and influence. Naval strategist Alfred Thayer Mahan argued in his book in 1890 called The Influence of Sea Power Upon History. He argued that whoever controls the sea controls the world. Even today, over 90% of global trade travels by sea, and most of the world's internet runs through cables laid across the ocean floor. Also, as Arctic ice continues to melt, new shipping routes are opening across the top of the world, potentially shortening global trade distances and shifting economic power. The oceans are not just bodies of water. They are the infrastructure of the modern world. Which brings us back to the Terramar Project. At first glance, the idea of becoming a citizen of the ocean may seem symbolic, but it reflects something deeper. A growing awareness that the oceans are not just empty space, but a shared global domain, one that connects economies, nations, and systems across the planet. A domain that no single country fully controls. Yet everyone depends on the high seas. So what happens when we connect these ideas? If the concept of ocean citizenship suggests a new kind of global identity, and if modern maritime law already governs a shared system that connects the entire world, could it be that the beast rising from the sea is not describing a creature, but a new governmental system? A system emerging from the very structure that has always shaped global power. A system tied to trade, law, movement, and interconnection. Not something separate from the world, but something that rises out of it. A new law that comes out of our current maritime law, the law that governs the high seas. Today, the high seas are governed by agreements like the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, but there is no true global citizenship tied to them. So, the idea of ocean citizenship introduces something new. A form of governance not rooted in land, but in a shared global space. But that raises a question. Why would anyone try to create citizenship for a place that's not on dry land? In the book of Revelation chapter 13, there is a passage that has puzzled readers for centuries. It describes a beast rising out of the sea. In today's theory, I would like to introduce a new way of perceiving this passage from the Bible, that it's possible that the beast rising from the sea is possibly a new law that will be created in a future time, that will govern the high seas that involve trades among nations. In biblical symbolism, the sea is rarely just the ocean. In the book of Daniel, 4 great beasts, representing kingdoms, also rise out of the sea. To ancient writers, it's possible that the sea represented the masses of nations. Israel was not a maritime culture, so when Revelation describes a beast rising from the sea, it may be describing something emerging from the world system itself. Today, the oceans are still one of the most unique spaces on Earth. No single country owns the high seas. Instead, they are governed by a system known as admiralty law or maritime law. This system regulates global shipping, trade routes, ocean resources, and international waters. Much of it is shaped by agreements like the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Nearly half the planet exists under this shared legal framework. In a way, maritime law is one of the closest things we have to a global system of governance, operating across borders, connecting nations through trade and movement. Later in the book of Revelation, another line appears, "And there was no more sea." This verse possibly represented the termination of the global system that we know today, a world where the structures that once governed power, trade, and influence no longer exist in the same way. Throughout history, empires have risen from the sea. From ancient trade routes to modern global networks, the oceans have always been the foundation of power. So when Revelation speaks of the beast rising from the sea, it may not be describing a creature, it may be describing a new law. The final question is, are we watching this beast be created right before our eyes? If you enjoyed this theory, please leave a like and comment. And thank you for listening to Relic Theories.